At family dinner, my sister grabbed my iPhone 17 Pro and said, "This is just a cheap knockoff." Before I could react, she snapped it in half like it meant nothing. My parents laughed, like it was the funniest thing they'd seen all week. I sat there frozen, staring at the shattered phone that cost more than Amber's last month's rent, paid by me, of course. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved ones. I'd been paying Amber's $1,500 monthly MBA tuition for 2 years. I covered half my parents' bills since Dad's retirement plan, turned into weekend poker games, and Mom's part-time job meant shopping online all day. I didn't mind at first. I loved them. I thought that's what family did. You help until they get back on their feet. But that night, sitting at the old mahogany table under the same chandelier I'd helped them replace, something in me cracked right along with that phone. Amber had been bragging about some new designer bag. "Real leather," she said, flipping her hair. "Not like Melissa's fake stuff." I laughed it off at first, thinking she was joking. Then she reached across the table, snatched my phone, and smirked. "Oh, you call this a Pro? Looks fake." She twisted it, and the screen split with a sound I'll never forget. The room went quiet for half a second before Mom snorted, and Dad chuckled like it was some sitcom moment. "Amber," I said, voice shaking, "that phone cost me." "Oh, relax," she cut in, rolling her eyes. "You can afford another one. You act like you're poor." That word, poor, hit harder than the snap. I'd worked 3 jobs to put myself through college, slept in a car 1 semester, and clawed my way into a financial analyst position. Everything I owned, I earned. And yet, in that moment, surrounded by the people I'd supported for years, I realized none of it mattered to them. They saw me as a resource, not a person. I tried to leave quietly, but Mom said, "Don't be dramatic, Melissa. It's just a phone. You always take things too seriously." Dad nodded in agreement. "You should be proud to help your family," he added. "That's what successful daughters do." I looked at them, 3 faces I'd spent my life trying to please, and felt something cold settle inside me. I smiled, stood up, and said softly, "You're right. I take too much seriously." I picked up the broken phone, placed it on the table, and walked out. The drive home was silent. No music, no tears, no anger. Just a heavy stillness that felt like freedom waiting to bloom. As I parked in front of my condo, the streetlights reflected on my windshield like tiny reminders of all the nights I'd stayed up worrying about them. That night, I decided something simple, something final. They'd never use me again. The apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the fridge. I sat on the couch, staring at the cracked remains of my phone, now taped together with frustration and memory. The image of their laughter kept looping in my mind like a broken recording. I reached for my spare phone, my hands trembling just enough to betray how tightly I'd held everything together for years. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Tessa's name. My best friend, my only consistent voice of reason. When she picked up, I didn't even say hello. I just breathed out, "They broke my phone, Tess." There was a pause, then her voice, firm and grounding. "Melissa, you need to stop letting them drain you. They're bleeding you dry, babe. You've done more than enough." I wanted to argue, to say family doesn't walk away from family, but the words caught in my throat. Because deep down, I knew she was right. Every favor I'd done, every bill I'd paid, every time I said it's fine, they'd taken it all like it was owed to them. I thought helping them meant they'd see me differently, I admitted quietly. "They do," she said sharply. "As a bank account. That's not love, Mel." I leaned back, eyes stinging, and let the truth settle like dust after an explosion. I'd excused them for years, telling myself they just didn't know how to show gratitude. But gratitude wasn't supposed to feel this empty. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time, the glow of the laptop screen lighting the room in a soft blue haze. My reflection stared back, tired, pale, but awake in a way I hadn't been before. I opened my banking app, heart pounding like I was about to do something illegal. Scrolling through the list of payments, I found it. Amber Carter, $1,500 monthly tuition transfer. The next due date blinked at me in neat black letters. I hovered over the cancel button, my finger hesitating for a fraction of a second. Then I pressed it. A soft chime sounded, one tiny note, almost insignificant. But to me, it echoed like a door closing on a lifetime of obligation. The word canceled appeared, and something inside me shifted. It wasn't joy, not yet. It was clarity, a quiet, fierce kind of relief that filled the space where guilt used to live. I sat still, breathing in the silence. For once, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an explanation. I didn't need to justify my boundaries or soften them with apologies. The night felt lighter, like the air finally belonged to me again. I closed the laptop slowly, as if sealing a promise. The city outside was asleep, but I felt wide awake, my pulse steady for the first time in years. Leaning back, I whispered into the stillness, letting the words settle like a vow only I needed to hear. They'll never use me again. 2 weeks passed in uneasy quiet. For the first time in years, no one had called asking for help or money. My mornings began with coffee and stillness instead of demands and guilt. But peace never lasts long with my family. That afternoon, my phone lit up with a call from Dad. I stared at his name flashing across the screen, that familiar tightness forming in my chest. I knew this wasn't a check-in. When I answered, his voice came through sharp, filled with accusation instead of greeting. "What the hell did you do, Melissa?" he barked. "Amber's been expelled from Drake. Non-payment. Do you have any idea what you've caused?" I didn't flinch. I just listened, letting his anger spill like gasoline on cold pavement. "Dad," I said evenly, "I didn't cause anything. I just stopped paying for what isn't mine." His voice grew louder. "You're her sister. You promised to help until she finished." I took a slow breath, steadying my tone. "I promised to help her, not carry her." Then Mom's voice cut in from the background, sharp and trembling with rehearsed emotion. "Melissa, how could you do this to her? She was doing so well. You've destroyed your sister's future." I closed my eyes, letting the words slide over me without sinking in. The old me would have rushed to defend myself, to explain, to fix things. But that version of me was gone. "Mom," I said softly. She destroyed it herself. "Maybe you just didn't notice because I was too busy fixing everything for her." There was a pause, a stunned silence, heavy and brittle. Then came the guilt, the same pattern they'd used for years. Dad muttering about ungrateful children, Mom sniffling about broken families, Amber's faint sobs echoing somewhere behind them, perfectly timed for sympathy. I'd heard it all before. Every tear, every sigh, every angry plea. It was a language designed to make me bend. But this time, it didn't work. The space between their voices and my heartbeat grew wider with every word. I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to win. I just needed to stop participating. "I hope one day," I said quietly, "you both realize what you've done to me. Goodbye." Before they could respond, I ended the call. The screen went dark, and for a moment I stared at my reflection in the glass. Steady eyes, no shaking hands. I'd expected to feel guilt, maybe even sadness. Instead, there was calm. The phone buzzed again almost instantly. 3 missed calls, a text, another call. I turned it face down, the vibrations muffled against the table. Then I pressed and held the power button until the screen dimmed to black. The sudden stillness filled the room. No voices. No noise. Just quiet. I leaned back against the couch, exhaling slowly. The silence wasn't empty. It was armor, smooth and solid, wrapping around me like peace I'd fought too long to earn. The pounding on my door came just after 9. Sharp, angry, relentless. I didn't need to look through the peephole to know who it was. I took a steadying breath before opening it. Amber stood there, hair messy, eyes blazing, her tone already halfway to shouting. "You think you can just cut me off?" she snapped, barging past me into the living room like she owned the place. "You ruined my life, Melissa. You're going to fix this right now." I shut the door quietly, letting her words echo in the space. She spun around, arms crossed, jaw tight. "Drake kicked me out because of you. You think that's fair? After everything you've done, you owe me this." "Oh, you," I repeated, my voice low but steady. "Amber, I paid for your tuition for 2 years. I covered your credit card bills. I helped you get a car. What exactly do I still owe?" Her face twisted in mock disbelief. "You're so bitter, it's pathetic. You act like you're some saint because you make a little money. Guess what? Nobody cares." Each word hit with the precision of someone who knew where to wound. I stayed still, watching her pace the room, spewing anger like it might undo the mess she'd made. "You think you're better than me because you have a job and a stupid apartment?" she said, voice rising. "You're jealous, admit it. You've always been jealous of me." Something inside me snapped, not with anger, but with exhaustion. "Jealous?" I said quietly. "You have no idea what I've done for this family. I worked double shifts while you went on vacations. I skipped meals so Mom and Dad could pay bills. I put your education before my own comfort. And you call that jealousy? She rolled her eyes, but I kept going, the words pouring out faster than I could stop them. Every time you failed, I covered it. Every time they needed something, I showed up. You all laughed at me, but still took my money. You called it love when it was dependence. Amber's smirk faltered, but she didn't back down. You'll regret this, she hissed. When you're alone, when mom and dad stop talking to you, when nobody's there, you'll regret it. She grabbed her purse, turned sharply, and stomped toward the door. The slam that followed shook the frame. A final punctuation marked to years of unspoken resentment. The apartment fell silent again. I stood there in the middle of the living room, surrounded by the stillness she left behind. My hands trembled, not from fear, not from doubt, but from something that felt dangerously close to freedom. I exhaled slowly, feeling the weight lift. The echo of her footsteps faded down the hallway, leaving nothing but the sound of my own heartbeat. For the first time, the quiet didn't hurt. It healed. The first hint of trouble came through a coworker. She stopped by my desk one morning, hesitating before speaking. Hey, Melissa. I ran into your cousin last night. She mentioned some things about you and your sister. I didn't believe her, but her voice trailed off. I forced a small smile and said, It's fine. People talk. But it wasn't fine. By the end of that week, the whispers had grown. Friends who used to text daily now sent half-hearted messages. A few stopped responding at all. My aunt called, her tone sharp, asking why I'd thrown family away. Then came the neighbors, looking at me differently in the elevator, polite but cold. Amber had been busy. From what I gathered, she'd crafted a story where I was the villain. The selfish sister who'd abandoned her struggling family after getting rich. She told everyone I'd humiliated our parents, that I'd cut them off out of pride. In her version, she was the victim of my cruelty, left alone to pick up the pieces. It was a perfect performance, one she'd been rehearsing her whole life. At first, I wanted to defend myself. I drafted long texts, even thought about visiting a few relatives to explain. But each time I stopped. They'd already decided what to believe. Explaining would just feed the fire she'd started. So I did nothing. I went to work, came home, and stayed quiet. Silence became my shield, though it wasn't easy. Every rumor stung like a paper cut, small but relentless. It was strange, realizing how quickly people choose comfort over truth. Amber gave them an easy story, one that didn't challenge their view of our perfect family. I became the convenient villain, and they embraced it. One night, I met Tessa for dinner. She noticed the strain in my eyes before I spoke a word. They're turning everyone against me, I admitted, my voice breaking despite my effort to stay calm. Even people I thought knew better. Tessa didn't look surprised. She leaned back, expression steady. Let her talk. Let them talk. The truth always finds its way out, Mel. It just takes longer when lies are louder. Her words settled over me like a quiet bomb. I realized she was right. Amber's noise couldn't last forever. Lies burn bright, but they burn fast. Still, there were nights when I'd lie awake, wondering if staying silent made me weak. But then I'd remember the chaos that always followed whenever I tried to reason with them. This time, I wasn't playing her game. Days turned into weeks. The gossip didn't vanish overnight, but it began to fade, replaced by new small-town drama. I kept my focus forward, one steady step at a time. The quiet wasn't just survival anymore, it was strength. And though the wounds of betrayal hadn't healed yet, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Silence didn't make me powerless. It made me untouchable. The invitation came through a text from Mom. Family dinner tonight. Let's put the past behind us. The words looked harmless enough, almost warm. But I knew better. After weeks of silence and gossip, a sudden peace offering wasn't peace. It was strategy. Still, curiosity tugged at me. Maybe I wanted to see how far they'd go. So I went. When I arrived, the house smelled like roast and candles, an old performance of comfort. Amber was already seated, phone in hand, wearing a grin that didn't reach her eyes. Dad sat at the head of the table, posture straight, expression unreadable. Mom greeted me with exaggerated cheer, then quickly softened her tone. I'm glad you came, honey. We all need to talk. I took a seat across from them, careful, calm. The moment stretched thin before Dad started. You've made your point, he said sharply. But enough is enough. Your sister's education can still be saved if you step up. Amber didn't look at me. She just smirked, tapping her nails against her glass. Mom sighed dramatically, folding her napkin. We just want this family whole again, she said, voice trembling. It's breaking us apart. Don't you feel guilty, Melissa? I watched her eyes glisten with manufactured tears. It was the same act she'd used whenever she wanted something. Cry first, guilt later. I didn't answer. Instead, I let the silence sit heavy between us until Dad lost patience. Melissa, he said, raising his voice, you owe this family respect. You were blessed with success. Don't forget who raised you. That word again, oh. It clanged in my ears like an old chain. I leaned forward slightly. Do you really want to talk about respect? I asked, because I paid for this family's comfort for years. Your mortgage, Mom's credit cards, Amber's tuition. I gave up vacations, savings, peace of mind, and you repaid me with laughter when my phone was smashed in your house. The room went still. Mom's tears froze mid-performance. Amber's smirk slipped. Dad's face reddened. He slammed his hand against the table, making the silverware jump. Don't twist this around. We are your family. I stood slowly, my voice even. Exactly. Family doesn't use family. But that's all you've done. Mom reached out, but I stepped back. You think walking away makes you strong? She said, her tone turning sharp. You'll regret this, Melissa. I shook my head. No. Regret is what happens when you keep pretending something broken still works. Amber finally spoke, her tone mocking. You always had to be dramatic. I didn't bother replying. I just picked up my purse, walked to the door, and paused for a moment. Behind me, no one spoke. 3 faces stared back, angry, stunned, silent. As the door clicked shut, the noise of their house faded into the night. The cool air outside felt cleaner, lighter, real. For the first time, I didn't feel like leaving meant losing. It felt like winning. The downfall started quietly. A rumor here, a whisper there, spreading through the small Des Moines circles that once adored my family. It began with Amber. After being expelled, she tried to keep up the illusion of success, posting old photos, pretending everything was fine. But lies eventually lose their shine. Her friends, the ones who'd once bragged about knowing her, stopped answering her calls. Invitations dried up. The same people who'd once crowded around her at parties now avoided eye contact in public. I heard through the grapevine that she'd tried enrolling at another university, but without funds or support, it didn't last long. Then came the sales. The designer handbags she'd flaunted, the shoes she'd lined her closet with, one by one gone. A neighbor mentioned seeing her at a second-hand store, trading luxury for grocery money. Another whispered that she'd applied for a barista job downtown. I didn't seek these updates. They found me, floating through conversations and local chatter like a strange echo of karma. As for my parents, their downfall came differently. Slower, quieter, but no less devastating. For years, they'd held themselves above everyone else, always quick to boast about their successful daughters. But when the truth surfaced, how much I'd paid, how much they'd taken, their pride began to rot. Neighbors who once admired them began to talk. I heard Melissa supported them for years, someone said at a local gathering. Can you believe they let their daughter pay their bills? It wasn't loud gossip, but it was constant. A steady erosion of the image they'd spent decades building. Mom's book club attendance became irregular. Dad stopped showing up to his weekend card games. Their smiles turned forced in public, and their phones stayed silent. Whatever respect they'd once demanded from the community had evaporated into embarrassment. I didn't celebrate their collapse. I didn't post or gloat. I just listened when people talked, nodding politely, offering no opinions. I'd learned that sometimes silence cuts deeper than any confrontation. One evening, while grabbing coffee after work, I overheard 2 women at the next table whispering about Amber. She's working over at that diner near the highway, one said softly. Hard to believe, she used to act like royalty. The words should have stung, maybe even sparked pity. But instead, they passed through me like wind. I stirred my drink, feeling calm in a way that was almost foreign. For the first time, her chaos wasn't mine to carry. I left the cafe and walked through the cool night air, lights flickering along the quiet street. Somewhere in the distance, I thought of my parents in their dim living room, of Amber stacking dishes in a kitchen that smelled of burnt coffee and grease. There was no anger left in me, no satisfaction either. Just stillness. The kind that comes when justice unfolds without your interference. For years, I'd chased peace through forgiveness, through fixing, through fighting. But now I understood it was something else entirely. Peace was what remained when you finally stopped feeling anything at all. Rain hammered against the windows that night, steady and relentless. I was half asleep on the couch when the doorbell rang. On the porch sat a sleek brown box, sealed tight, water pooling around it. My name was written in elegant cursive I knew too well. I carried it inside, setting it on the table. The box smelled faintly of expensive perfume, the kind Amber always wore when she wanted attention. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a Louis Vuitton wallet, new, untouched, gleaming under the dim light. A small white card lay tucked beside it. Let's move past this. Amber. The handwriting was careful, almost trembling, like she'd rewritten it several times. I stared at the words for a long time, tracing the edges of the card, feeling nothing. No anger, no sadness, just recognition. It wasn't an apology. It was a transaction. Another attempt to buy her way out of accountability. I closed the box, taped it shut, and the next morning, walked it straight to the post office. No note. No explanation. Just return to sender. The clerk asked if I wanted to insure the item. I shook my head. No value, I said quietly, sliding the box away. That evening, my phone rang. Her name lit up the screen, Amber. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won for a moment. When I answered, the first thing I heard was her uneven breathing. Then it choked. Melissa, please. I messed up, okay? I just wanted to make things right. Her voice cracked like glass. I could hear her sniffling, the strain of desperation trying to sound sincere. You don't have to forgive me completely, she pleaded. Just, can we at least talk? I listened, letting the silence between us stretch. My reflection stared back at me from the dark window, calm, detached. Amber, I said softly. You're not sorry. You're scared. There's a difference. She tried to speak again, but I didn't let her. You don't get to fix what you broke by mailing me something expensive, I continued. You had years to treat me like family. You chose not to. There's nothing left to fix. Her breathing turned ragged. For a second, I thought I heard her whisper my name like it was a question, a plea, but I'd already made my choice. I hung up. Then, with steady hands, I opened her contact, scrolled to the bottom, and pressed block this caller. The screen went still. No buzz, no vibration, no trace. The rain had stopped outside. The air smelled clean, like the world had been washed new. I sat in the quiet, phone face down, feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time, peace didn't feel distant, it felt earned. The morning sun poured through the wide windows of my apartment, catching the soft gold edges of the curtains. The space finally felt like mine, quiet, balanced, warm. No voices demanding, no calls asking for favors. Just the gentle hum of the city below and the soft sound of my coffee machine. It had been months since I'd heard from Amber. The last I'd known, she was working at a small cafe on Main Street, the same one she used to mock for being too basic. People said she was taking classes at the community college, trying to get back on track. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. My parents, Charles and Linda, had retreated from social life almost entirely. The same neighbors who once adored their perfect family had turned cold. Invitations stopped coming. Their phone calls grew less frequent, shorter each time. Whatever power they'd held through gossip and manipulation had evaporated. I used to think I'd feel guilty about their fall. I didn't. I felt steady. My bills were paid, my savings rebuilding, my weekends my own. Even simple things, buying groceries without worry, sleeping without tension, felt like luxuries I'd forgotten I could have. That afternoon, Tessa dropped by. She brought pastries from the new bakery downtown and sprawled across my couch like it was still 2015, when we'd shared takeout and cheap wine after work. You look different, she said, eyeing me with a grin. Peace looks good on you. I laughed. Feels weird, honestly. Like I'm waiting for someone to knock it out of my hands. Then don't answer the door, she said. We talked for hours about her new job, about the Chicago trip I was finally planning. It had been sitting on my bucket list for years, pushed aside by family emergencies that were never mine to fix. But this time, I'd already booked the tickets. No hesitation, no guilt. Just excitement. As evening fell, I stood by the window, watching the Des Moines skyline fade into twilight. The city lights blinked on one by one, quiet and constant. The skyline wasn't grand, but it was honest, solid in its simplicity. Tessa joined me, handing over a glass of wine. You did it, you know, she said. Did what? Broke the chain. I smiled faintly, sipping slowly. The air was cool against the glass. I thought about all the years I'd spent trying to earn love that was never freely given. About how freedom hadn't come from revenge or apology, but from distance. From saying no and meaning it. I didn't realize peace would cost this much, I murmured. She glanced at me. Worth it. I looked out over the city, the soft glow, the quiet roads, the faint rhythm of a life finally my own. Every cent, I said. I used to think walking away made me cold, that choosing peace over people meant I'd failed them somehow. But the truth is, it wasn't my job to fix what they kept breaking. Love without respect isn't love. It's control dressed as care. I spent years believing that giving more would earn me warmth. It never did. It only emptied me. Now, standing here, looking at the city glowing through my window, I finally understand what freedom feels like, quiet, steady, and mine. Family should never be a debt to pay. It should be a choice, built on respect, not obligation. When people start treating your kindness like currency, it's time to draw your line in the sand and walk away, no matter who stands on the other side. If you've ever been made to feel guilty for saying no, know this. Boundaries don't make you cruel. They make you whole. You're allowed to stop being someone's lifeline when they're the ones pulling you under. Thank you for listening to my story. If any part of it felt familiar, if you've ever had to choose peace over family, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. As the last light fades over Des Moines, I set my phone aside and breathe, really breathe. No anger, no guilt, no noise. Just a small, quiet smile. I'm free at last. Do you think I made the right choice by walking away from them? Or should I have given my family another chance? I still wonder if cutting them off completely was the only way to find peace. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your honest opinion. And if you want more stories like mine, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.